Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So as the title says, support pick rate has actually dropped overall from July of this year to now, especially in the highest tiers. Before we go over the data and what it means and take a look at the trends and stuff, I do need to give some context into how this video came about and how we got this data in the first place. So with all of the talk about the fixed rate matchmaking stuff that's gone on at the early part of this week, I did want to have a look into a little bit more of why matchmaking and why competitive feels so horrible right now. Is it the one tricks? Is it the rise in toxic levers and throwers and all that jazz? But ultimately the thing that I wanted to focus on, whether players have kind of got bored of flexing and frustrated at playing another tank or another support and gone, screw this, I'm just gonna play something like Junkrat because it's more fun and I don't care if we lose anyway. We've all had those games where we've only had one support or one tank, but I wanted to see if this trend had increased by looking at the pick rate for tanks and supports and seeing if they had decreased with the rise of the DPS slots of offense and defense heroes. And what I found out was actually quite interesting, and it wasn't that cut and dry. Fairly similar, but a bit off as well. So I wanted to gather this data by looking at some old Omnic meta reports, looking all the way back to July, seeing what heroes increased and decreased in popularity, but Switch, the guy that does the Omnic meta stuff, actually did me a solid and went one further by providing me with all of his stats and showing off some trends and stuff as well. And as you've seen, there's a lot of 1.4s, 1.5s, 2.0s, 0.6, but what the hell does this mean? Well, the numbers on screen are broken down in the 6 slots on a team. So let's say, for example, we look at the silver pick rate in August. Let's go for that. On average, a support would fill 2.000 slots, so pretty much 2 slots a game, with tanks filling up 1.788, defense filling up 0.735, and offense heroes filling up 1.47 slots on a 6-man team. So as you've seen, their supports pretty much always fill in a third of the games on average at silver way back in August. And we can look at how that's changed over time, whether that number for support plays has gone up and down, but also how it fills out. But we'll drop the numbers for now in the place of percentages. Similar kind of thing, and then we're going to look at a pie chart that really shows this off. So to really show off this information, let's look at Grandmaster back in July. And on average, this is how a team would look, with 33.91% of your team being full of supports, 28.82% of your team being filled with tank heroes, defense coming in at 6.44%, so a lot lower than everybody else, with offense heroes at 30.82%. Of course, if you're going for that 2-2-2 setup, and you should always really be running 2 supports anyway, you want to make sure that you've got at least 33% on average, and that's exactly what support has here with almost 34%. So supports were picked the most out of all of the categories and just over average. The interesting thing here is that tanks are actually picked a lot less with 28.82%, but we'll go over that in a second because there is a very clear reason why. But offense heroes picked at 30.80%, defense heroes picked at 6.44%, combining them both as DPS slots, I suppose. It looks about 37.26, which is more than average, but kind of makes sense considering you're adding 2 roles together here. Now let's look back to now, this month, December, the latest meta report, and support pick rate has gone down from 33.91% in July to 29.26%, so about a 4.5% drop. So this may not look like much, 4.5% isn't a massive drop, but you've got to bear a couple of things in mind. This is just one team, so if you have, say, your team and the enemy team, you're doubling that number, so that's a 9% drop on average overall in seeing support plays in your games at the highest tiers. Again, may not seem like much, but what you got to remember as well is that Moira was added in that time, a very exciting support hero that a lot of players wanted to play. We've had the Mercy meta, Mercy still being somewhat OP and used a lot in matches, and has picked a lot more than she used to be. Zenyatta's in a pretty good spot. Lucio has dropped a bit, but we'll go over that some other time. But the main thing being is that all of these things are going in the way support plays. New hero, a hero that's really strong right now that you can't really go without, yet the support pick rate has dropped 4.5%. So that raises a question: where did these players go? Well, some of them could have dropped out of GM into lower tiers like Master, or even further if they've had a really harsh time. But have they gone into DPS slots? Well, no, not really. Remember when I counted up the percentages of offense and defense heroes earlier and it came to 37.26%? Well, that's risen if you combine the offense and defense heroes of December, and it's risen to 38.94%, so it's only gone up 1.5%. The main difference has been the tank plays, which has gone from 28.82% back in July to 31.8% now. The main reason? Well, Roadhog, actually. Roadhog back in July was pretty much useless, and then he got the changes meant that he could move around whilst he was taking a Braver and a damage mitigation as well, meaning that his popularity has gone up a lot, but also the overall health of the tanks is fairly good right now, fairly balanced. You can play all of them. Ariza's having a much better time, for example, but Winston way back when had a 71% pick rate, and now that's fallen quite significantly with heroes like Reinhardt and Zarya and all these other tanks that are a bit slower moving and not dive now have a place in the meta somewhat. So that kind of dispels the main idea that these support players have kind of gone on to play other roles. But whichever way you look at it, there has been a drop in support players at the highest tiers. And I really wanted to focus on the likes of GM because how the Grandmaster players play, because most of them are full of pros, really dictate how the game is going to be. And there is that element of trickle down mechanics in there. So that's the main bit of info, but I do really want to highlight something with September, as this was clearly the worst month that we've had when it comes to how these roles worked. Why is that? Well, that was the lowest pick rate of supports in the highest tier, when it went down to 27.56%, which is way less than average and way less than it should be. It's actually never been lower across any other tier in any other month. This was the least played time for support players overall. Tank rate was still quite low as well with 29.23%, but look at the pick rate of the offense heroes that was at 36.34%. No role over any other tier in any other month has been as high as this. DPS main meta. And adding that together with defense heroes, you have 43.21%. So around this time we did see a lot of triple DPS. Almost every game, 40% there or so. So a good portion of your team was made up of these heroes. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to go in this video. The main thing that, certainly at the highest tiers, we have seen a drop of support players, but not going to play the likes of DPS, defense heroes. Some have trickled into there, sure, but tanks are certainly in a much more healthy spot now than they were back in July. But let me know what you think of this data. A big shout out again to Omnic Meta for helping me with this video. And until next time, take care. We'll see you then.